1875, the final addition to the zone. Her husband was a builder who built many of the mills and houses throughout the area, and they were wealthy enough to afford silk fabric to make fantastic outfits like that one. And even against this was screen, no electricity, doesn't plug into a wall, no batteries. When are tight, springs don't like to be tight, so they start trying to loosen themselves. And the pressure from that loosening process causes other parts inside to move. It's neat. These discs are changeable. We've got 14 in our collection and changed them out from time to time. Each bump on the back of the disc represents a single note. Waves. And some folks prefer the vinyl and the wax over the digital players. They say it's a more natural sound. I just like it because that pop hiss. I played records when I was little, that's what we did. But it amazes me how they figured out how to configure these things. Because the tiny little metal needles, they're like just tiny little pieces of metal. And these read the grooves in the records, and it's just this mechanism here that magnifies the sound. I told him over again, quit drinking whiskey, lay off. This one. But the one hanging from the ceiling in the entry hall hasn't been electrified. And since there's no wiring running to it, we're able to retain the counterweighted system of chains and pulleys at the top. And that allows the lamp to be lowered. And then it can be lit and pushed back into place. Piano is a portrait of E.M. Holt. Over here is his wife, Emily. These were painted in 1879 by an artist out of Virginia named William Garl Brown. The Holts were in their 70s, but it's not magnetic. Mercury was used extensively in thermometers, and this is a mechanism from a thermostat. And you see a personal friend and portrait painter of Marie Antoinette. And that picture was collected by the youngest son of E.M. and Emily, named Lawrence. As it ages, the mercury oxidizes and turns dark much the same way as silver does. And mercury is a very interesting substance. I have a little bit here. And you see how shiny it is? It causes the tube to tilt just a little bit to make contact so that the circuit is completed and the heater comes on. North Carolina was considered the back country, but we still had artisans who were keeping up with trends and fashions pretty well. The table copy of the original from 1875. This is the only room in the house in which we know the exact pattern and color used by the Holt family. Throughout the rest of the house, we don't know what was there initially, but the current wall covers are correct for the era. The table, as well as the sideboard, are from the 1870s. They're both black walnut with hand-carved decorations. And normally we have a set of china on the table. The china originated in Limoges, France, around the 1870s, 1880s. And there were over 179 pieces in the set. Each piece was hand-painted by William Lycett of Atlanta. On the wall around 1879. Stitch is completely hand sewn by a lady named Sophie Springs Ross. And you see there are millions of stitches in the background alone. In the tradition of a friendship quilt, each square was sewn together by a separate lace. This is a courthouse steps pattern. The sword was made for the cavalry. It's long and heavy and has the nickname of wrist breaker because of its weight. And you see the smallest denomination was for 5 cents. But most likely they wouldn't. They didn't get the formula in the right balance to be able to produce a clear image, but it's still very attractive and sold very well, especially here in America. And even when they figured out the formula for producing a clear image, they continued to produce the flow blue into the 1870s. Over here is an egg spoon, a bacon fork, a sardine fork, a couple of mayonnaise ladles, and an olive spoon. The Alamance cotton factory started out in a little grist mill, which is this building here. The grist mill was converted to a spinning mill, and then later on a weaving room was added, and then a dye house was added. And by 1853, the Holts were producing their colored fabrics. That is a needlepoint interpretation of second generation plaids. In the 1870s, the Holts began importing larger amounts of synthetic dyes from are indigo blue and white. The photographs are of workers at mills around the county, and you'll see that many of them are wearing plaids. And also, the children in the photographs worked right along beside the adults. Some of the children were quite small, like that tiny little girl there. This past stated that no child between 12 and 18 was supposed to work more than 66 hours a week. And in 1993, the red dots marked the locations of mills owned by the Holt family, and there were other mills owned by other families as well. By 1900, the Holts owned about 24 mills. And we are located right here, and E.M. built his first mill just a mile up the road. Quality of their exterior fabrics, and today are renowned with the Sunbrella brand. They were also doing experiments with nylon, and in 1959 they were the first company to produce pantyhose, although they called them panty legs. And purchased several mills that had been placed on the market for sale. He combined them to form the core of Burlington Industries, which quickly rose to be the largest textile company in the world. And they expanded into all kinds of different directions. And a scalloped line satin stitch from her shoulder all the way down to the floor. This came to us with a note that said it was from the 1860s, but it has been altered quite a bit sometime during the 1900s. I know the black. And that one back there is my favorite. This one is 1920s. It has all of this fantastic glass bead work on it and these lacy inlays.